There are 1,000,000 ways to die. We just wanna talk about it. Codeheads.
Welcome back, Codeheaders. Here
Good
we are.
morning.
Howdy do. So we are back at it today, and we are going to talk about something that has been, ironically, causing a lot of stress for Mike and I, which is heart rate variability, the
And
HRV.
we'd like to pass that stress on to you.
JK.
Just
Um, we want to make sure everyone is happy and healthy, but we
yes.
are a little bit stressed after our deep dives on HRV. So, if you guys have any sort of smartwatch or biofeedback, something or other that you wear, a wearable like, an Aura Ring or an Apple Watch, or there's things such as Elite HRV, all these different things can give you your heart rate variability score. And I think that a lot of people just like, there's a lot of data on those wearables that some of it people know what it means. They're like, oh, cool, I'm doing awesome. And
Yeah.
others, people are like, I'm not really sure what that means, but looks good. I'm not being
Right.
alerted that I'm dead. Um, and I think HRV is one of those ones that if you know, you know, and if you don't know. So we kind of want to talk about it. Um, so what is heart rate variability? Basically, it's the fluctuation in time intervals with your heartbeats. So it's non-invasive, obviously, because you can check it from your ring or from your watch or whatever. But it's an index, a trend of your cardiac function,
hmm
but also your autonomic nervous system regulation. So those of us who are high strung might be at a higher risk to that our HRV is lower. But people always think, oh, and I think we've talked about this. We say that, oh, if your heart's not beating regularly, perfectly regular, then it's an arrhythmia. And that's not that is kind of true, but not really, because a really healthy heart can respond to anything.
Yep.
So it's that biofeedback mechanism. So if all of a sudden there is chaos in your world, your heart should be able to speed up because
And
you're responding to it,
yep.
and slow down when you need it to.
And I think people do equate this HRV, this metric, often with speed. And so one analogy is, so our heart rate's the speed, right? Like a car speeding, that's our heart rate. HRV is not the speedometer. It's more like the suspension, right? So car with good suspension adjusts constantly to the conditions of the road. So every bump is, there is a reaction, and that's what our heart is doing. We want it adaptive. We don't want it rigid.
Yeah, like suspension, exactly. And because it just helps us to be able to respond. And we know that it's got its eyes on the road. We know that our heart is actually paying attention to our body
hmm
and what our mind is thinking and all those lovely neurotransmitters that get, shut off. So that being said, for those of you who have a wearable, um, then it comes down to, well, what is this number and what does it mean? And it can be a little bit, every day that number is going to change for what it is for you because, depending on where you're getting that biofeedback and that data from, it really looks at a trend, like a 24-hour trend, but some of them even take more time to look at those
Right.
trends. And I can't say how much time because each of them are a little bit different. But uh, it's important to make sure that that your HRV is impacted by. So if you're somebody who's healthy and you work out and you exercise a lot, that's awesome because we know that that's good for our cardiovascular health. We know that working out is good for us, and we know that getting, cardiovascular exercise is good. However, we need to make sure that we're also, on the flip side, recovering our body, resting our body afterwards. So there is stuff that you can do that, you can overtrain your body. if you're really focused on, you know, losing weight and a goal like, people after New Year's when they're like, I'm going to go to the gym 3 times a day or twice a
Right.
day to really, burn out extra calories, you can actually be doing a real detriment to yourself to jump into that.
Right.
Um, there's a reason that elite athletes, they monitor all this stuff because they need
Yeah.
to know when they're overtraining and when
Yeah.
they need to step back and recover because actually your body does better when you're recovering. That's when, the muscle is transforming and, from fat and or not transforming, but converting. That's when your body is starting to actually really do the work that it needs to from the hard work that you put into it. Um,
That recovery also obviously is incorporated into our sleep. So when we are overtraining, our deep sleep, where we repair, can suffer. So these are all connected.
right. And
They
that's
all contribute to the ultimate number that we find, that variability over time.
right. Because when we're not sleeping enough, we're not eating healthy, or we're overtraining, our autonomic nervous system is just out of whack.
Yeah.
And it really does a lot of damage. I know there's this whole mind body connection and all these things that, you kind of hear and you're like, oh, yeah, your HRV is really an actual piece of data that is reinforcing that
Right.
if we are, doing the right things for our body, which is hard to do. It's hard to live your life, work, do all the things that you need to do to be a human and if you're a parent, if you're an animal parent, an animal parent, all the things that need to get done in the day. And remember to meditate and eat the perfect amount and, drink all of your water and get in exercise. You know, it's a lot. And sometimes even thinking about that stresses people out. Um,
Yep.
that'll set you back. Um, but it's important to get that recovery and to sleep and to make sure that we are, listening to our bodies. And it's hard to listen to your body with an HRV. You can't really listen.
And we, like you said, all right, we want some balance in our busy lives, but there's things that we can reduce, if not stop. Like, for example, alcohol abuse, probably the most dramatic and immediate suppressor of our HRV. Even like 1 or 2 drinks per night can crater that morning reading.
100%.
And so you're talking about, okay, I could meditate and, I could make my training a little more, balanced. I don't have to go too hard, too little. But this one is obviously that is a one that you can change. I'm not saying it's easy if you have an issue with it,
Right.
but if you're wondering why it's tanking and you're like putting back half a bottle of bourbon every night, might want to put 2 and 2 together there.
But even if you don't drink a lot and you have one drink, it still impacts
Yeah.
your circadian rhythm and how you sleep, and so you don't get that deep sleep. And those of
Yeah.
us who are over the age of 40, um, that's a big impact factor. And actually, I don't really drink, but a lot of my friends that used to drink a lot, and all of them are like, "Oh, I don't drink anymore because I go to sleep, but then I wake up and I'm up all night and my brain is like buzzing." And that's part of the impact of like age, which we
Yeah.
could get into with a whole other podcast. But it negatively, so even one drink, if you're not waking up in the middle of the night with those like anxiety responses, your heart's still feeling that.
Right. But what comes with the alcohol? Dehydration. Dehydration is another one that could lead to a precipitous plummet with your HRV. So these are ones that are pretty obvious,
Yep.
right?
And
The other ones we were speaking of, like, they're a little more nebulous. It's kind of harder to correct. Like, I exercise, but it's very hard for me to say, am I going too hard? Am I being too soft on myself? Like, that one's very difficult, at least for me. And I know you exercise too. So those ones, which I think I am overtraining, but I'm not sure. I need a second opinion. But it's like things like that. I'm like, how do I change that? Like, I could change alcohol, I could improve sleep, I believe, via meditation as one example, but training's hard and there are other metrics available, obviously.
and
Um,
and so, but if you are, watching your HRV and it's something that you're kind of tracking and trending, um, it can actually be an indicator of something, more going on.
Yeah.
So if you have a low HRV, your body can be indicating that you do have it is a known risk factor
Yeah.
for cardiovascular events. So if you've had any sort of cardiovascular history, anything in the past, um, if you now suddenly you're trending down with a lower HRV, it's a predictor of sudden cardiac death, um, especially post any history of post myocardial infarction.
Mhm.
And that's pretty creepy, but it's good to know that our wearables are telling us that there's a way for us to know because outside of the technology that we have and wear and look at, we wouldn't know.
Right.
Um, but it's also, a low HRV can indicate, that you have some sort of, that you have diabetes, that you might be
Right. Right. Big ones.
creepy.
I mean, diabetes, I read about like, post-surgical recovery monitoring, it's utilized, PTSD,
Yep.
trauma. Um, so it's not just like you were saying, not just wellness trends, but potential predictors and really a great non-invasive way of monitoring patients that are, following any acute event where they are hospitalized.
And actually with the PTSD, it's interesting you brought that up because they're doing some big studies now and using and continuously monitoring HRVs in PTSD patients and then
Right.
treating and actually collecting data on how they're responding to the treatment, which, previous to looking at this bit of data, it was kind of just like, "Oh, I feel better," or "I don't feel better," and obviously there's more to it, but,
Yeah.
um, it's a concrete number that people can look at and trend and know,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is pretty amazing.
Be it is, and it is nice to have that extra component added in to something like PTSD, pardon me,
Yeah.
because that low HRV, that reflects or may even contribute to, poor emotional regulation. So when we talk about what can be done like for PTSD, there's, sometimes breath work or vagal stimulation techniques. So they're looked at seriously now as more so as clinical interventions than mere wellness trends.
You're right. Yes. And actually, I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but Mike and I, we have no sponsorship whatsoever, but we both wear Aura rings. And so we compare our data every day, basically. And, I guess we try to see who's less dead than the other one. So with the Aura ring, it uses, there's more to their algorithm, but it does use the HRV to indicate if you're getting sick.
Mm.
It'll give you, I think we both got this, which was very scary, like the big red cloud of doom that's like, you're ill, rest.
It
And
is like that. These ominous storm clouds. You're like, great, it's going to be a good day.
yeah, but that's because it can indicate that there's some sort of inflammation going
Yeah.
on. So it has actually told me, I will tell you that those storm clouds, I did not feel like I was sick. Or that I was getting
Right.
sick. And then the storm clouds happened. I thought I was just kind of tired or whatever. The storm clouds came and honestly, within 12 to 18 hours, boom, I started to get symptoms of, just the virus that I had. Um, and it was wild because
Did you pay attention to the clouds though? Like, did you like sort of take it easy or do any of those recommendations? No, I'm just curious.
mm, I tried. I think I tried, but I think it was a day that like I just couldn't.
Right. Right.
um
I mean, that's
Had I felt
it.
ill and the storm clouds came up, I would've been like, "Oh my gosh, I can't."
Right. Like,
But I
that's
was
what's so
like,
fascinating. It's like illness is on the horizon. You're like, I don't know about
"Not
that.
today."
I'll
And it was
wait till it arrives.
fine. Well, and that's what happened, but that happened for the first time, and then I've always listened to it since. So I have, and even if there's minor variations, it will tell us and say, "Listen," like even if I had a great night of sleep, my
Yeah.
HRV is low, it'll be like, "Hey, listen, take it easy today. Don't go for that heavy run. Maybe get out in the sunshine and go for a walk." Like
Yeah.
it it does let me know that in some way something's going on with my body. Sometimes it is that I've overtrained and it said, "Hey, you went hard at it yesterday." And so I do really
Right.
appreciate that because
Right.
I think there's a lot of times that we don't pay attention to our bodies.
Oh, no. I
We
mean,
should.
and that's what these consumer wearables are supposed to be doing, is which is great. I think it's a great insight. And all these devices, like you have the Whoop, the Ring we just
Mhm.
talked about, Apple Watch, Garmin, they've sort of, democratized HRV tracking. So that's really exciting. But in a way, there's kind of a catch. They, like we said, they don't all measure them in the same way. So my reading on my Oura Ring won't match what's on Whoop. Clinical HRV, right? That's using an EKG.
Yes.
We're not, that's not how these are doing it. But if I were to look at a rhythm strip, it would be really hard to see that I mean, I know it's not how they would do it, but on a rhythm strip, I could look at the QRS and see, that 1 millimeter box is 0.02 seconds. It's going to be hard for me to see the difference just by doing that with
Right.
calipers and a magnifying glass. So
Right.
these lights, and I don't know if you could see people, but it glows green sometimes. And that's actually, that's what's happening. It's measuring it. And with the Aura, which we don't endorse or anything, we just wear them. It's only tracking our HRV while we sleep. I looked that up. It's solely while we sleep, where some others do it in different ways. They'll have maybe a broader spectrum, more duration. So that's why it does vary. And you don't necessarily need to be obsessed over the number, but you do need to pay attention to when it is monitoring you.
Right. And that trend. And that's
Yes.
what I always tell everyone, even healthcare providers, when they're looking at, patients and getting one vital sign. If it's one snapshot in time, okay, well, that's one snapshot in time. But looking at that trend over time and how the body's responding is that's the data that's important. And that's where this HRV really pulls into play. And I think that Mike and I should we've kind of mentioned it, but our HRVs are very
Are we going to give the number to the audience?
yeah, why not? We'll
All
look it
right.
up and
So
yep.
today, or last evening, pardon me,
Hmm.
I had a 10 was my average, a 10. So, and a max was 19. Still not what you want to see on.
My minimum, my lowest was 16 and my average was 34 and my max was 70.
That's a huge, wait, that's just last night?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a wide variable. But it's like, so we're dealing with other metrics. Like on this ring tells you a lot of things. So it's like, it's look at them all, in a measured way. We
Yes.
have, it's like great indicators. But earlier you said I want to equate, like, all right, oh my God, my number's 10. But my blood pressure might be below normal limits, correct? But
Right.
it's been that way perhaps for 30 years. I might have a low heart rate. I might be bradycardic. Doesn't mean I need to rush to the ED and get
Right.
paced, you
Right.
know? So where do I live? What's me? Unless I feel awful, then there's no need to have, to be alarmed, even though admittedly I'm alarmed by this. I'm trying to speak to rational people out there, not me. I'm like, oh my God, Bridget, after this pod, I'm out. I got to go to the ED.
Well, and so Mike and I we're holding ourselves accountable is that we made a pact to each other that we are going to look at our HRVs in 2 weeks. So we're setting today as our low point, and we are going to mandate to each other that every day we meditate for a minimum
Minimum.
10 minutes a day and work on our sleep. And in 2 weeks, we will hopefully have trended upwards.
Will meditation, will some sort of serene deployment of some serene intervention help us? Will I go from a 10 to an 11? We'll see.
And that is what we are going to focus on. So I
Meditation.
think kind of in conclusion with all of this is that HRV is a very powerful, non-invasive indicator of our physiological adaptability, right? So how we respond. And the wearable devices, whether you have one or not, they do offer these amazing opportunities for us to track and trend our own personalized health and wellness. So we need to think about it and, again, take it with a grain of salt. But if there's something that's off or that you're missing, reach out to your healthcare provider. If you think
Yeah.
you need to see a cardiologist, see a cardiologist. It's not a bad thing to do, to have a spot check and just have someone make sure that everything's good. I send my
Right.
data to my doctor, so he gets all my wearable data.
Really?
Yep.
Huh.
I think he thinks I'm a lunatic, but I do.
It's like he's like, "Oh god, here we go again."
I know, he's like, "Oh, you're not dead. You're great." No, but he does like to see it. I think he's kind of interested in what,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think I have an enigma because they're like, "You don't sleep, you know, and you're still alive." Anyways, HRV is an amazing and powerful tool. I hope this helps you guys to understand a little bit more what it means. It is still kind of nebulous, so you can't pinpoint exactly what's going on when you have those changes in HRV, but there are things that you can do to make sure that you are living as healthy as you can and being as healthy as you are, and use it as a way to listen to your body. So until then, we bid you farewell, our Codeheads.
There are 1 million ways to die. We just wanna talk about